Hello, hello. This is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals. Let's Talk Moving podcast. And with me today, I have Justin Hodge, the president of Muscular Moving Men and Storage, and Jim Stevens, the CEO of M3 Commercial. Josh Jurhill and Justin launched Muscular Moving Men in 2008, and M3 was launched in 2019. So, guys, what got you into moving?
Yuri, I think for me, it was just interesting the way the whole situation evolved. I am from Arizona, originally born and raised here, which is pretty rare. I went to Arizona State University. I worked at a moving company when I was in college, and I learned just one specific aspect of the industry at Two Men in the Truck, local residential moving. It's such a fragmented industry. There's so many different pieces of what different businesses do. And so I learned just one aspect of it while I was in school. I graduated from college in 2006. I then, my plan was to go to law school. So I actually took the LSAT. I wanted to be a lawyer. And
No
that
kidding.
didn't quite pan out for various different reasons. But from there, I knew that I wanted to be a business owner. I wasn't interested in working for anybody. So in the midst of 2008, pretty much the worst time that you could start any kind of a business, let alone a moving company, you've got this economic crisis, you've got this housing market that's collapsing. And we thought, hey, let's go ahead and start a moving business. Let's get this thing going. So what we found quickly is that it's somewhat of a recession-proof industry. There's always going to be the need for movers. And so we were busy right off the bat.
So, what you're saying right now, and it's all the fun times that we're having, you feel like fish in the water.
Yeah, I mean, there's different reasons people are going to move. That they say, historically, it's one of the top three most stressful days in a person's life, and at that point, you could definitely cut the tension with a knife. You'd be in different homes, offices, apartments, and people were moving for reasons that were beyond their control. But we were providing a service, and you were making that day as comfortable as it could be. And as things have evolved over 15 plus years, and we've added more resources, more men, more trucks, and we've added these different service lines. You see that there's always going to be this need. I mean, you think that you've seen it all, and then you get to a point with something like COVID,
Mm.
and again, that completely rocked us. And we were blessed enough to be named a business that can maintain it being open and provide its service. And you change a bunch of ways that you do different things. So it's just this constant evolution. You add on these different pieces. We went from just local residential, we added long distance moving, and we made every mistake that you can make at that point initially early on. We've
Well, you
evolved
you you
that.
you haven't been almost arrested like Luis Massaro, so you didn't make that one. So good job.
Yeah, there's not been any arrests, but Arizona is a really interesting market. They say that it's one of the least regulated states in the country when it comes to moving. So it's literally the Wild West. You've got movers that are sharp, that charge the correct rates, that are ethical, that do business the right way, and then you've got others that really just couldn't care less. They're out to make a buck and take advantage. So there was actually laws that had been passed here in Arizona, the hostage laws, most specifically, and I think it was 2018. And that helped kind of get rid of some of the bad actors in our industry. But frankly, every time a customer calls us for the first time, it's not because they had a fantastic experience with their last moving company.
Yeah, that's a
It,
that's a that's a common trend across the industry. I think that's at least we hear it a lot, especially because in our case here at Moving Sales Professionals, we only work with licensed movers. We only work with movers that have good reviews. Realistically, if you guys are listening to this and you're not licensed, I can talk to you. I can give you some advice of what you should be doing. But until you get your stuff together, I'm not going to work with you.
yeah, it's almost an education that you need to provide the clients. You're so intricately involved in their lives for weeks and sometimes months that it's not just this simple business transaction where you sell a piece of merchandise and they go on with their lives. You're not just a moving professional. You're a shoulder to cry on at times. You give recommendation for a handyman or whatever service they might need in their new home. But the process that we've built out, we feel really confident in, and customer service has always been the most important thing to us. Whether it was just a two-man job with Josh and myself when we first started out, we probably did the first 1,500 moves just as a two-man crew. We'd show up at a 3,000 square foot house, and it was a two-man job. A one-bedroom apartment, it was a two-man job.
And here
And
And now for a quick message from our sponsors. For a limited time only, we have partnered with an SEO and marketing company with discounted rates for their services. Schedule an appointment via Calendly link below to learn more. Thank you. And now getting back to the podcast. Go the two muscle man.
Yeah, we didn't know, you had to have something to call it. So we actually bought our logo for $25 online, and we've named him Buddy the Box. So, there's 20 or so trucks that have got this Buddy the Box logo on it. We had an actual mascot suit made by the same couple that make all the mascot costumes for the different sports teams in town. Wow. So we spent enough on that we could have almost bought another moving truck, but we send that out to different events. And the involvement in our community, I think, is one way that we've stood the test of time and made it through all these different little peaks and valleys that we've hit. And we're big into charity. There's so much waste that goes into the move that a lot of the time, when clients are moving, most of the stuff ends up in a landfill. So, we made an initiative to try to collect as much of the canned food and unwanted items and clothing and get that out to our charitable partners in the Valley. So it's something like more than 1.5 million pounds of furniture and food has made its way back to different charitable partners in the Valley instead of making its way to a landfill. And so you're right at the apex of this opportunity to really provide a service, not just to the client, but to the community as a whole. And I think that's what always continues to rise to the top. And, if we provide the best service possible, and if we stay connected to our community, the rest really takes care of itself.
Yeah, it's awesome that you guys doing that, because I talk to a lot of companies, and we talk on our podcast a lot about being different and being creative and doing things like that. And I think that in the market that's saturated right now, whether it's licensed or unlicensed, but and at the same time, because of the current situation, which I'm sure you guys saw a lot in 2008, I was in the moving at that point already also. So I've been doing this for a minute as well. But yeah, it's absolutely about differentiating yourself from your competition, or whether you consider them competition or not. It's just doing something different. That even though when you get, there's a price point at which point you as a moving company, especially, you've been doing this for a long time, where changing your prices is not going to help your business model. So you need to justify to a consumer, besides the fact that we're a great company, besides the fact that we have ratings, why else should you be willing to pay more for my service? What else should you feel? Should you realize that, well, these guys are doing charity work, so if I'm paying more, I know that at least a portion of the money that I'm paying is going to end up actually going to charity to a degree. So it's so important about everybody trying to do something different. How do you make yourself different than the people that you're competing with? It's hugely important.
Yeah. It's a huge word of mouth industry. More than 40%
Absolutely.
of the business that we get is from previous customers and word of mouth. And you can pay all the money you want for online advertising. You can sponsor local sports teams. We were the official moving partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks for a few years, the Arizona Coyotes for a few years, and a bunch of different leagues.
Well, for the Coyotes, at one point that there must have been some questions there.
Yeah,
I'm a big hockey guy, so
yeah. I wasn't, to be honest with you. It's funny that you can play hockey in Arizona. It's 120 plus degrees at times here. Unfortunately for our moving athletes, the busiest time for all moving companies, at least residentially, is in those summer months, that intense, May to August timeframe, when the kids are out of school and families wait to do their big moves. So it takes a lot to, more than just how much you pay a mover athlete to be a part of the team. Culture is a big part of what we believe in, and that's another differentiator. Who's our first and foremost client is our team members, and so if we take care of them, they in turn will take care of the clients that we move.
Of course. So, I heard you say this a few times, and you said this before we started recording as well. What is a mover athlete? And now for a quick message from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com to learn more.
So for us, you talk about differentiators, right? And we're a big believer in providing a different level of service when it comes to the quality of the moving professional or mover athlete, if you will, that comes into a client's home. So we're a smoke-free company. Health is hugely important to us. Josh and myself are former athletes, well, still current athletes to some extent. We've gotten into running half marathons and doing Spartan races. And I think if you lead from the front,
I stick to hockey. I got a game tomorrow night. I stick to hockey.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of an exercise right there. So
Mm-hmm.
you would definitely skate circles around me. But we've got a gym set up at our
I'm not
facility.
as fast as I used to be.
Yeah, we've got a gym that we have set up at our facility. So instead of using the particular space inside our warehouse to do additional storage, we cleared some space for our professionals to be able to get in there and work out before and after shifts. They have access at no charge to the gym. We have a convenience store that's inside our facility, so they can get the different drinks and food they need before and after shifts. We meet regularly on a month-to-month basis to have an all-hands interaction, because we believe strongly that the staff within the office should be connected to the mover athletes in the field, and not just make those repetitive same, here's the numbers, here's what's going on, but how do you engage with them? How do you make it fun? How do you make this a place where they want to be instead of the competition down the street? And so that's, I think, really where the culture lies for us is anybody can pay $20 an hour to a mover, but what else do you do that makes you indispensable as a company and makes the exciting place that they want to come work?
Well, I just got like, I'm hearing you talk about this stuff, and I just got this major idea for a commercial for you guys, right? So I just imagine one of those linebacker trying to move a sled, because he's moving, right? So there you go. You use that idea. Go with that.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
if it's
you
a
have
good
something
idea,
like
we're
that
gonna
already. I
steal
don't
it.
know. I just saw that.
Well, we might be stealing some of your ideas, so I'm
That's okay. There's plenty of those in here.
But we'll give you credit. Yes. And so, I mean, a lot of what, again, you just keep adding these ancillary pieces to the business over time. So more than 30,000 moves in 15 plus years, there's going to be bumps in the road, no doubt. I think that the standard is, according to the industry, like 20% of moves end in some type of lost, missing item or issue that you have to sort out with the client. And we have a 5 to 10% or so incident rate, but that's still, on a month-to-month basis, there could be 25 to 50 clients that you have to work through situations with. So I think just providing that added level of customer service, and not just that, being willing to listen to what the client has to say. Empathy is huge. That's what they want to be able to do, is just share, their experience and figure out, there's a lot to be learned from that. For us as a business, we can always constantly improve. One of our core values is being relentlessly never satisfied, in addition to do the right thing and to win as a team. And so we really try to embody those core values. They're not just words on a wall to us. And like I said, the client, first and foremost for us, is our mover athletes. And we just, figure out ways that we can try to improve the environment for them to be. And, we add these extra pieces. I mentioned we added long distance moving at some point. We do a ton of storage now. And the most recent addition to what we do is the commercial moving division. And, it was long overdue, 10, 11 years into owning a moving company, adding, a specific mile deep, inch wide, as Jim would say, division that just focuses on office, industrial, hotel, hospital, basically anything that's not residential. Because a lot of companies say they do commercial moving, but most of them really just aren't very good at it.
Commercial, I think it's a fine line, because you can call a lot of things commercial moving. Majority of my clients are not quote unquote office movers, right? That doesn't mean that they don't move offices. It's just that it's the volume of the office. Are we talking about 50 desks, or are we talking about 300 desks? how much stuff is actually to what level is it? Because when you have like most moving companies that I know, okay, local moving companies, right? If they're moving in office, they're going to be stacking desks on top of each other and things like that, right? Commercial moving on a heavier scale, and I give a lot of credit for that knowledge to Mr. Ed Katz, of course. He is the master. And most for him and what he talks about with stuff like that, you're not stacking desks. In fact, you're doing that on one layer. You send in that truck, and then you're bringing it back, and you're doing it again and over and over and over again in as many trucks as you can set out. So you can have like really huge offices. You're talking moves that don't take a day or two. You're talking moves that sometimes may take a week. And I mean, of course, you know you have to disassemble cubicles. You have to do all this stuff that majority of local movers are not going to do those type of moves, because
Yeah.
it's a completely different scale.
And that's why Josh and myself, we knew we weren't experts in that particular field. And you mentioned the Godfather, Ed Katz. So we went through the initial
Of course.
International Office Moving Institute training and certification. And we knew that we needed somebody that knew as much about the commercial side of the business as we did about the residential side. And that's why it was such a beautiful pairing for us to bring a partner on like Jim
And
Stevens.
here comes Jim to save the day.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Oh boy.
So Jim, getting back to you, you were an East Coast guy working with JK Moving.
Mm-hmm.
So what has led you to make the change, move to Phoenix, become a part of Muscular Moving Men? What drew you to it?
Yeah, good question, Yuri, and thanks for having us on.
Sure.
I think back in 2018, I just needed a life reset button, to be very direct. I was burning the midnight oil 16 to 18-hour days, and I don't look back on that with regret, but I had young children, and as I've mentioned to many in Phoenix, my relationship with my 9-year-old Grace is a little bit different than my relationship with my 4-year-old Gavin. The DC market tends to chew you up if you're relentless in the if you're relentless in the pursuit of excellence. And for me, it was I was probably overdriven to a certain extent, and certainly supported by a great organization in JK Moving, but I was run down from getting up at 5 o'clock and being active until 6:30, and then booting it back up and working from 8 to 10, 11 midnight. And that was my own doing. But Justin and Josh approached me back in 2018, and it just was perfect timing. I really aspired to test my mettle. I looked up to those like Chuck Kuhn, who built an incredible organization, has built an incredible organization at JK, and really wanted to see what I was made of. So when the opportunity came and Justin and Josh shared their vision, I hopped on a plane to kind of assess, their enterprise. And as I've mentioned to many, Muscular Moving Men still to this day is one of the best kept secrets in the country. So it was an opportunity to come out, not knowing anyone aside from Josh and Justin, move my family out here to sunshine every single day and see what I was made of. And it's been a heck of a ride. So frankly, Yuri, I didn't have the answers and still don't have them to this day. There was just a lot of faith backing that, and belief in myself, and frankly, belief in the enterprise as a whole. And certainly it's been terrific over the past 4.5 years.
No, that's awesome. It's definitely having a vision, being able to share it with somebody. And especially if people are as driven as you are and have this just sharing the vision and working hard towards it. It's kind of the same thing as, I once upon a time, I had a partner when I started my company, when I started moving sales professionals. And a year later, I found that it was much better to just be myself, because at that time, he did not have the same work ethic as me. He did not, while he seemed to a degree share certain things, he did not share the full vision. So if I didn't push on, we wouldn't be where we are today. Certainly, there's still lots of work to be done. And but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I like the whole concept of muscular movers because I think a lot of people, their vision of movers are different. And these days I talk to a lot of people in UK, and I see you're starting to see kind of an evolvement on quote unquote moving man or removal man, where in the past it might have been you move somebody, then you go have a pint and so on. These days you definitely see guys that are more in shape. I had a podcast with a gentleman named Warren, with Warren Removals, Warren Leggett, and he has a interesting show that he has on YouTube that's very well made show. So I recommend looking it up. It's entertaining. It's entertaining at the same time. It's like live TV moving. So it's actually, I think everybody that's in the moving industry is going to find it interesting. And it's well made. It truly is well made. I don't know how much he's paying for videographers, but it's well made. And it's nice to see the guys that are, that you would hope your movers are when they come in, that they're not guys that have a beer belly like me, and they're going to have a beer after they're done with the move. Although who knows, right? But anyway, it's definitely a different. Just once again, I'm really liking the term of mover athlete. It's like you're the only ones that I've talked to a lot of movers, over my 20 years in the industry, and just with this podcast, I've talked to a lot of companies, a lot of people that are in the industry. That's the first time I've heard that term used, and I like that, and I like the prospect of it, and in general, just the vision that you guys have is it's refreshing, and it's cool. I like it.
Appreciate that.
But so over 10 years. So what other than everything else, Justin, I know you brushed on that a little bit, but what did make you go to the commercial side? Is it just basically yet another avenue growth, or is there other reasons?
Yeah, I think that, most of the moves that happen in this country, that, you've got on average 10% of the population's moving. So, but during COVID time, it ramped up to 20% of our population that was moving. So, you have somewhere between 30 and 50 million moves a year that are happening. And a lot of them are as a result of a business related change. And that might also stem from the business itself moving. And so I think on a lot of different occasions, there were offices being moved, and we would power through that with our residential team the best that we could, but we weren't doing the best job possible. So if there's an opportunity for something that's there, and if one side of our business could feed the other, that was really the idea. And having a person that is an expert in that field. I'm a big fan of surrounding ourselves with experts in whatever endeavor we take on. And Jim was that right person for us. And so, we would rather turn down the business if we can't do it the right way. And once we found out that we could do it the right way with the right training and the right people, I mean, the floodgates opened up. And that's really just in the one market. Phoenix happens to be fantastic. It's always top 5, one of the busiest inbound shipment states in the country in Arizona. And, servicing the surrounding states is great. Having the long distance part of our business continue to grow is great. But when you dig a little deeper with your clients and you find out, what's the reason that this move's happening, you'd be surprised at the answers you get, and you can really get into some great insight, and that leads to another side of the business. And I think just Josh and myself being as established in this community as we are, and the relationships that we've built and the doors that we feel like we've been able to open have led to this pretty rapid rise in success on that side of the business. I think if you're cold in a market and you go in and you're trying to make a name for yourself, that can certainly be a challenge. But when you've got some pre-existing part of your business and you've got the relationships built out that we feel like we do, that really sparked this idea. And like I said, I think 10, 11 years in was great that we came to that point and we were able to connect with somebody like Jim, but it was long overdue.
No, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to see what comes for you guys in the years coming and everything else that you're trying to build. it's always refreshing. I mean, in general, I work very hard to make sure that we only deal with companies that have a vision, the companies that build a brand, that are very focused on building a brand. And that's certainly what we are, and certainly what we're working hard to build, is to have a brand, to have our name synonymous with sales as it relates to moving, synonymous right now with this podcast, and being able to provide informational value, to be able to provide a little bit of education, to be able to provide a little bit of entertainment to anybody and everybody that is related to the moving or to the removal industry all over. So that's certainly our focus. But it's great. Like, it's I feel that I hear constantly the same thing over and over again, which is awesome. That I talk to a lot of professionals and a lot of people in the industry, and overall, so much focus is on culture. So much focus is on building something that's long lasting. So for those of you guys that are listening that are thinking of building a new company, starting all over, do it the right way from the beginning. You're going to avoid a lot of heartache, a lot of mistakes, and you're going to be able to get where you want to get to sooner, because you got to do it right the first time. This is not the business to do it wrong. It's not about the almighty dollar right this second. It's about where you're going to be down the road. What are you going to build down the road? Is your company going to endure through the hard times like you guys did in 2008, like we are all feeling today? But it's when you look for the long term, you build your company to be around for the long term, to go through the tough times. And obviously, I think for all of us, whether it's me doing sales or doing the podcast, or you guys running your company, you want to make sure that among everything else, you are truly providing a service that doesn't just end with the physical labor and moving somebody's items. It's the physical service. It's the customer service. It's to be there as a supporting part of your community. All of that stuff is so important, especially these days where, in some places, compassion is hard to come by.
You're working with clients that are basically turning the keys over to their entire life to you. There's no more intimate relationship with a client than being in their master bedroom and the place that's most personal to them, and in different parts of their home, and the furniture that's so important to them. And from a monetary value, maybe the items are not the most valuable, pieces that we've moved, but to them, they're irreplaceable. And so I think that
sentimental value, something that you can't put a dollar sign on, really.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just it is a stressful day on its best day. So you try to put your clients in the best possible position to be successful when you get to that day. Really, that's just the finish line. There's so much leading up to the weeks and days prior to the move that collaboration is key. Education is key. People are going to move 8 to 10 times in their lives on average. So, I mean, this is what we do every day. And so if we're cranking, 20 to 30 moves a day, we owe it to our client to put them in the best possible position so that they are prepared. And again, your reputation is the most important thing. So,
absolutely,
starting out on the right foot, like you said, I think is hugely important. And again, a lot of moving companies, I think they put a lot of time and money into going and getting the next client. And that's great. That's what we want to do as well. But you want to make your existing client base be raving fans of yours, and try to take advantage of the fact that word of mouth is so powerful. So tapping into your existing client base and, always staying in contact with them. That's something that's important to us, is that we continue to stay in contact with our clients, because they might not be moving for a few years themselves, but everybody that you move,
they
knows
have friends,
5 to
family.
10 people. Yeah. So making them raving fans and being your biggest advocate, that's going to lead to success.
Yeah. And not to mention save you money on advertising.
Yeah, that's key too. That's a byproduct for sure.
But guys, once again, it's such a pleasure to have you on. It's really humbling. I really like having people that are really have a focus in the right place and the heart in the right place. I think so much of that is having the heart in the right place is under. It's people just don't put enough into that, I feel, at times. And I think it's important, especially in the world that we're living in, and at times it's not the nicest place either. And you want to feel like you're contributing something that's making the world a better place, whether it's for yourself or for your family or for your children or for people around you. But overall, if all of us try to deliver something that's going to make this world a better place, then there's all power to that pursuit. Certainly. But once again, thank you very much for joining me for this podcast. It's a pleasure, Justin, Jim. And as we always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you. Thank you for joining our podcast. Please look at the links below. Check out Muscular Movers and M3. And once again, thank you, and we will talk to you soon.